Hey guys, welcome to Coding Flamingo. So in the last video we created our API calls for the Bittrex service. So we created our buy, sell, get current price, and they all worked. So now we have to create the algorithm, like the trading algorithm. However, we do not want to test that on our real money. We don't want to lose money for that. So we'll have to create a Bittrex service test class to be able to call the API and mimic the behavior of Bittrex. So in the past we created the information minion, which is gathering information. Hopefully you have it running in the background that gets all the information of the markets over a time span. So maybe you might have a week or 2 weeks of data. So you can use that to either train if you're using AI models or just to test your model to see how it's doing, whether you would make some money or not. So today we're gonna create the test class that will actually read that information to be able to use those test data. So as always, we're gonna create a new file, tests. It just looks weird. And then we're gonna add a new item, and we're gonna call this one Bittrex test service. So we're gonna make it a public class. And eventually when we actually have the trading logic, which I guess we can create right now. Let's just create, so let's create the managers folder. And we're gonna add a class, and we're gonna call it trading logic manager. So when we're creating this logic manager, you want to pass it the Bittrex service that you wanted to use, and we're passing it the market that you want to do, and then we'll play with other stuff. But we want to so when you're creating this class, you want to pass it the Bittrex service that you want to use it, either if you're testing or if you're in production, and you want to pass the market that you want to use. So we're going to create a new constructor, public trading logic manager. We're going to pass a string market, and right now we would pass the Bittrex service class. Using services, service class. However, if we do this, we're hard coding it, so then we would have to create a new class with the Bittrex test service, and it just doesn't make sense. So we're going to create an interface. So in services, we're going to create a new class. We're going to call it Bittrex service. And we're going to go here. And this is not going to be a class, it's going to be a public interface. And the interface is going to have the functions from that we have created, because both the test and the real one will have the same functions and they're going to return the same. So let me just copy the definitions. We got it. And models. So now we go back here. We add the Bittrex now it inherits this interface. So now when we create our new Bittrex service, which we already did, just put it in tests. We do this. So now we have to. So it's going to say that we haven't implemented all of these classes. So now we have to implement these classes to be able to mimic it and be able to call either one, and we can just declare it here. So like basically we can get rid of this. This was just for testing. So now we can get like you could pass it from the arguments, but in here we're just gonna do bool test equals false. So this if you want to go straight to production, so then you would do if test. So basically, if it's a test, run the Bittrex service test. Let's add it so I get autocomplete for the second part. And let's just call it service. New. So in here then we can use whichever one for the rest of the code. So now let's go back to the tests. We're going to start with a constructor to tell it where the file is. So we're going to do string file name. This constructor has to also build the queue of all the market price, because to mimic the rest we can't be like next or something. So we basically have to create a queue of the prices getting in from the file when we're constructing what we're going to call the market. So we're going to create a new queue and we're going to make it so we got to add the models. And then we gotta have the starting balance that we're gonna use, alt balance in case we're starting with alt. And then I like having a cell counter that we're gonna use later. Then starting cash. So for starting cash, I usually just do $1,000. Just this fake money either way. So it's easier to do math when it's a big amount of money. And so now let's get through it. So we're gonna, when we start the thing, we're gonna do the starting cache. We're gonna use a string to get the information from the file. We're gonna read it line by line. We're gonna do it from the file name we passed. So then we do while the line is not null. So we're gonna do while the line is not null. Let me add the JSON object response. I guess we can put this one here. So we get the object response. So this is basically kind of like we're mimicking calling the API, because if you remember, this is like how the API it's saved in the file, and then the average is greater than 0. So when it's 0, it means that it failed in our recording. If we go back to information meaning, you'll see that like we did negative 999 for a failed request, so that's why it has to be greater than 0. We don't want to have fake prices, and then we enqueue it. And then we gotta initialize the first price. So this is the first price that we start with. This so we know what it is, and then the last price is the last price you read. So that one we're gonna start with 0. So that takes care of the constructor. So then we have to find a way to mimic the get current price, which is basically what's gonna drive our whole algorithm. So what we're gonna do is we have to dequeue from this queue the current price each time that it goes. So let me just copy it, and that's gonna be mimicking basically the get current price of here, which I cannot find. There we go. So this gets the price of the market. So we go to test, it's the same, you pass a market, and then you can see get current prices is a queue. So you make sure that there is still a queue. If the queue is over, that means that we finished. So then we want to get the total numbers of the simulation. So basically print this out for the user and exit, which is a variable that we have to let the, basically we make a public variable to let know the simulation has finished. So we'll do like a while, like exit is equals false, run, and then when exit is true, just get out. So we're gonna dequeue and return the result. So now we gotta do get total simulation. Once again, this one is only called from the function, so we're gonna do a private, and it's just a nice way of doing it. I print the market, how many times we sold, how many times we bought, which we haven't done that, so I'm just gonna comment this out for a second. And then the starting price and the last price, and then so this one is just of the market, so we can see how the market did, and this one is how the algorithm did. So we grab the last price and the first price, which we do in the constructor, and we use this to calculate. So if the algorithm outperformed the market, then we're doing great. If the market is outperforming the algorithm, then we still have to work a little harder. So then let's take care of the sales. And the reason we have the cell count and byte count, that's just because when I was debugging mine, I realized that some of the times, like you would have one sale and then the algorithm, the market would crash, and then you wouldn't buy again, and you're like, oh, I made a bunch of money, but then it was just a lucky sale. So I like to have the count of how many sales we have. What did I do wrong? I'll copy that. So cell count is missing. So let's just add the cell count and byte count. And we go back here. We can do, let's do the buy. And you can see we're still missing the cancel order and the get balance. Cancel order, like usually you gotta check whether or not the order is like did it work, did it not work. In here we'll assume that it always cancels if we ever need to cancel. And then we're gonna do the get balance. So basically this one will go to our balances that we have here, so US balance and out balance. And we're just gonna return that. We gotta know which one they're passing, so basically we're gonna do, if it contains USD, then that means that they want the US dollars. and if not, that means they want the other one. And we see still are missing order is complete, so usually the order takes a while. Like it doesn't just happen. You order it and it gets done. Like someone has to buy this altcoins from you. So in this one, you can play with it to make sure that like your algorithm is not hard coded. Like you're not wasting. In this one, I'm just doing 3, but you can always change this number to make it longer and shorter, just to make sure that your algorithm reacts well, even if you can't sell it. And you can even make it a random number between 1 and 3, or sorry, 1 and 10, 20, and just see how your algorithm performs. So as you can see, it'll just keep adding it until 3, and then it'll return true. So now in here, we're not passing a file path. So we have to pass a file path for it. So I stored my files in this directory. So I'm just going to pass this. Once again, this should be in config. It shouldn't be just hard-coded. But for sake of testing, we're just going to do it here. And so here, let's just run it. So test should be true. Let's run it to make sure that it works. So let's go in, initialize all this stuff, and then it's going to try to open it. So I found the issue for the problem is in here I'm passing in the folder, I'm not passing in an actual file. So we're going to change that. So we're going to create a directory. Because we can do this only if it's a test. And then we're going to do a file info. So we're going to get all the text files in that folder, which makes sense. So if we go and get that folder, it's all text files, but it's easier in case we add other stuff, and then we don't want to introduce bugs. So now we have to do a for each if we want to do it for each of the markets. So I don't like capital F for this. So then we're going to initialize it. And after that, in here, we would have the, let's call it, so we still have to do this. Full name, because market is a file info type, which if we do a quick definition, it tells you all the stuff that it has. So you want to have the full name. So now if we do this, we should be able to open the file. Yeah, so now we can open the file. Let's put a breakpoint after the while loop. What if it's going to stop each time? Yeah, it's going to stop each time, so let's put it here. So if finish the first market. So in here we can see the variables. So the first price and the last price. So you can see the market went down significantly in the time that we tested. And we can see what market we were testing, BCH. So it's going to go and do the same for all of them, but we're not doing anything else. So then we would have to do like get current price, and then if you want to sell, you got to do that. So now that we can read everything, and we can see the current prices. So then here you can see all the current prices that we have. We'll create the algorithm in the next video and start testing it. Thanks for watching.